Ow! Dang it! Oh no. Come on in. Because now it's time to learn, to cook, to taste. This is To Taste, the podcast where every episode dives deep into a different food. Today's topic is hot sauce with special guest Ben Bechelli. Ben is my oldest friend. I think he's about 52. No, I'm just joking. I've known Ben since junior high, and honestly, he's the reason I became a cook and has been a constant teacher and collaborator on my journey with food. He's an amazing chef and also runs Fantasma, his hot sauce company, making a bunch of seasonal, ingredient-driven sauces from peppers he grows in his own backyard. Me and Ben talked about growing peppers, fermenting, blending, and balancing hot sauce, and now is a great time. It's summer with peppers popping in the market. I hope it encourages you to try making your own batch. Anyways, without further ado, here's my conversation with Ben. What does hot sauce mean to you? What's your relationship with hot sauce?
Yeah, I've been making hot sauce for about 10 years. I have a tiny little hot sauce company, and I sell it, and it's like a yearly thing. The peppers grow, and then I harvest them, so it's like a once a year thing. It's just fun. I like growing peppers and stuff.
So you're growing your own peppers at your house?
Yeah, so I'm planting like 200 pepper plants in like a tiny little indoor greenhouse in February, and then like slowly nurturing these plants to be like 1.5 feet tall, and taking them outside during the day and bringing them inside at night. And then eventually, once the sun comes around a little bit more, I'll plant them in the ground and then, tend to them. And then eventually they're full-blown plants, and then I can harvest the peppers and ferment the peppers and then process them and then create them into hot sauce and so on. And
you're growing like many varieties of peppers.
Yeah, totally. Every year is a little bit different, and I save my seeds every year. Last year, I think it was like 30 different varieties of peppers. It can be obvious ones like habaneros, but also it goes to these like crazy different crossbreeds that these like pepper freaks out in the world have created. And peppers are like, they really cross pollinate really easily. And so like just having a garden full of different peppers, if you save those seeds, you're bound to get some like kind of freaks and like some ones that don't necessarily look how they're supposed to look or taste how they're supposed to taste.
I know I've talked to you a little bit about like sometimes you're looking for color. Are you also like looking for flavor? Do these peppers have a big range in flavor, or is the thing that's unique about them mostly their color and their heat level?
Oh, totally. Huge range of flavor. Like the color, I like to make some of my hot sauces are like, I'll make a yellow one, or I'll make a dark like brown black one, and I'll kind of grow peppers based on those colors. But the colors of the peppers oftentimes create different flavors too. I mean, I feel like it's the same with vegetables too. It's like white carrots are always the fucking worst carrots, and like
right.
Cauliflower just tastes like shitty broccoli. And like whenever there's like lighter color, like I grew some white peppers and they don't necessarily have a lot of flavor. You could have like, I grew white habaneros, and habaneros are kind of famous for their like really kind of fruity floral flavor, and the white ones just don't really have any of that. They're just like spicy. But like all the different like genres or classes of peppers have different flavors and heat levels and stuff like that, and I think it like goes along with the color too.
I didn't know this, but for a while I didn't know this. I remember when I learned it, it kind of blew my mind. But like, what's the difference?
Green peppers, all green peppers ripen.
Yeah, is that true? Is that true?
Yeah. It's like the whole mushroom thing. It's like white mushrooms are just like young creminis, and then creminis are just young portobellos.
Right. Is that true?
I think so.
I don't know if that one's...
I'm pretty sure.
Really?
Yeah. I heard it on a podcast, and there's one thing I know about podcasts is they're always true.
So just to clarify, the thing you're saying is like, the difference between for example...
Baby portobello.
Yeah, exactly. But a jalapeno turns into a Fresno. Can we agree on that?
No, those are different peppers.
Damn
those
it.
are different peppers. But a jalapeno will turn red, and it will change its flavor, and it will change its texture. And like the reason that jalapenos are so popular, I think, is because they grow really well. They're like easy to grow, and we eat them when they're green because they're just like super crunchy. But like as soon as they start to ripen and get red, they lose that crunch. And I think that's probably a big reason why we don't eat them red. That's
cool.
It costs more because you have to grow them for longer and you use more water.
Right, that makes sense. So you were talking about like the differences in flavors, which I don't really think about that. I mean, I know like habaneros are like known to be fruity, etc., but I don't really like, obviously.
Where'd you learn that?
On a podcast, if I remember correctly. Do those flavor differences in the peppers reflect in the final fermented hot sauce, or does it all kind of like wash out into heat?
Yeah, dude, for sure. I mean, like, again, we can take like the basics, the like jalapeno versus like a habanero or something like that. Like you go to like a Mexican taqueria and you get their hot sauces and you get like a salsa verde or something. And it doesn't have like, it has like that kind of green, like grassy earthiness. But as soon as you start getting into like the hotter sauces, like you'll notice right away that like it's a habanero, or if they have the like classic like pickled onions that are like super spicy. It's because the habanero's in there and you can just taste the difference. And I think those flavor differences really impart a lot from the like fruit to the sauce.
That's cool. From fruit to sauce would be a good memoir for you. But okay, cool. That sounds great. Let's walk through the process. I mean, do you have anything? Do you have anything you want to say about like someone growing peppers at home? I've grown some peppers at home. It felt pretty easy. Like
super easy.
I feel like you were saying like maybe like a pepper plant is enough for one person to have at home to make like enough hot sauce.
For sure. I mean, like, so there's like categories of peppers. There's like mild, medium, hot, super hot. And the super hots are like the Scotch bonnets and the brain strains. Like if they're crazy fucking hot, like some of these peppers, Cody, you've never been down here during like, or you have been down here, but you've never eaten like any of the really hot ones. For some reason. I don't know. Maybe is it because you're scared, or what was
No, I mean, I just like I try to avoid going down there in general, but keep going.
I'm just saying they can be so fucking hot. Like there's peppers named like Seven Pots, which is like a Caribbean pepper that's named because one pepper will spice 7 pots of stew.
Oh, that's cute. I love that. Well, maybe this is the year that I come down to try all your peppers. I just want to clarify that we are laughing here because this year, 2025, Ben is actually taking a break from making hot sauce. So instead of his backyard being full of peppers, it's actually full of flowers. So I won't get a chance to try all these peppers. Okay. Anyways. I know there's a lot of different kinds, but could you describe a little bit of like... Sorry, what was that? Another Diet Coke. Awesome. We both are drinking Diet Cokes for anyone that's not watching a video on this. But can you give me like a general description of your ideal hot sauce?
Yeah, I think that my ideal hot sauce is like a Louisiana style hot sauce. It's not super viscous, but it's not loose like water. It's somewhere in between. It doesn't have chunks in it. And it's like relatively see-through. That's the kind of hot sauce that I mean, I like all different hot sauces, like chunky ones, and like I enjoy those too. But my perfect hot sauce is like crystal hot sauce. It's not like blow your face off spicy, and it's more of just like a seasoning.
And so in that kind of hot sauce, like how would you describe what you're like tasting? Like, is it like, would you describe it as like spicy vinegar? Would you describe it as like, like,
I think that spicy vinegar makes sense. I don't think that a lot of the Louisiana style hot sauces have a lot of sugar in them, which I like. I think my hot sauce is a little bit sweeter than those, but the way I see it, it's like salt, vinegar, and peppers. And so it's like a perfect kind of seasoning for your food. It doesn't have to be spicy, but it's just like bringing your mouth in the right direction towards, Flavor Town.
Yeah, I like that. That makes sense. It's like adding acidity, it's adding some salt, it's adding some like, I guess, depth because of the fermentation.
Yeah, exactly.
What are the basic like universal ingredients in hot sauce?
I think universal ingredients are vinegar, salt, and chili peppers.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. So let's talk about each of them a little bit. Peppers. I guess I'm thinking about people at home if they want to make hot sauce. Like they probably won't have Tabasco. They won't have cayenne. You'll probably have jalapeno. You might have like serrano.
Yeah. You'll have jalapeno. You'll have serrano. You'll have habanero.
Right.
Those are like the guaranteed. Like you go to Safeway and that's what you're going to be able to find. You might be able to find like Thai chilies or something like that, or you could find like chilies de arbol or something in the like dried pepper section, which are totally fine to make hot sauce with too.
And you can kind of treat whatever peppers you want in the same way.
Yeah.
whether they're jalapenos or serranos or Thai chilies.
Yeah, and I think that, at the end is when you're really starting to make the decisions about where you're going flavor-wise and where you're going heat-wise,
Mm-hmm. Mm. Okay, peppers, salt. Where is salt coming into the equation?
Salt, if you're going to ferment, salt's at the beginning, right? So you're creating the atmosphere for your lacto fucking bacillus, whatever it's called, to be happy and thrive and create the fermented kind of flavors that you're looking for. I usually do a 3% brine on my peppers, just because I want to really push that salt forward, and they're going to age for a while. And then salt comes in at the end too. You put all this salt in at the beginning, you think it's going to be seasoned, but a lot of that salt flips to acid, and then at the end you're like, damn, this still needs some salt.
Right. Okay, cool. So, vinegar. Do you like apple cider, white wine vinegar?
I like having 2 different types of vinegar. I've used different vinegars for different sauces. I've made a Chinese kind of sauce, and I've used black vinegar for that. I made an Italian sauce, and I used red wine vinegar for that. But usually the base models are raw apple cider vinegar and distilled white vinegar, because I think that sometimes you just need that punch that comes from distilled vinegar. Apple cider vinegar is sour, but it's just not the same.
What about, those are the base kind of ingredients. What are other common ingredients? Garlic. I feel like I've seen people using carrots often. Water. Maybe.
Yeah, people definitely water, definitely sweetener, sugar, cane syrup, corn syrup, honey, agave, maple syrup, all work totally fine. I think water is important. If it's too spicy, water is a great way to kind of pull back on the heat. Yeah, and the classic pairings for hot sauce, it's always fruit. There's a million: pineapple, habanero, peach. I feel like fruit and pepper really go well together.
Oh, xanthan gum thickeners. Why they do that?
You don't want your sauce to be just water. And so when you break down hot sauce, let's take Crystal, for example. If they didn't have xanthan gum in there, it would be water, salt, pepper, and vinegar. And it would be liquid. So you put it on, it'd be a lot more like Tabasco, and you put it on your food and it just kind of sloughs off.
Right.
And so the thickeners, I think, are important. I use thickener in my hot sauce, and I wouldn't want to do it without it.
What do you use?
I use xanthan gum. It's just the tiniest little bit. You get a 1/4 teaspoon per gallon. And it just it's not only a thickener, but it's also an emulsifier. And so it thickens your product, and it also makes sure that it doesn't split on you. And so there's no shaking of the bottle every time you use it, and separation and stuff like that.
I made a hot sauce one time when I lived in New York, probably 7 years ago, and I put xanthan gum in it. And I think I put too much because it made my mouth sweat, which is now making me feel like maybe it was emulsifying my saliva.
No, I don't think that. Did you put MSG in it?
Maybe I'm thinking about MSG.
Yeah, that's what MSG does to you personally.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So I'm thinking about MSG.
Yeah. Maybe
Great.
You're thinking about, but you can use when we made that Poot Tutor non-fermented hot sauce, we used oil as a emulsifier and a thickener, which is an amazing way to do it. I think that the only way to use oil and not have it separate long term though is to have another thickener in it, like a xanthan or something like that. But if it's just for if you're making a little bit of hot sauce for dinner that night and you're going to use it all. Olive oil is such an awesome way to do it, because it just gives you a really lovely mouthfeel and texture and butteriness to the hot sauce, that all the fat also cuts through the acidity and all the spice and stuff like that in a really nice way.
And that's just kind of almost as if you were making an aioli. You're you're whizzing it and slowly whistling in. So whistling it.
Whistling.
No, nobody says whistling anymore. Walk me through the process of making hot sauce from the point where you've got peppers in your hand to the point where you're squirting it onto your eggs in the morning.
Nice. So you can go the fermented route, or you can not go the fermented route.
Do you want to do a 2-pronged approach?
Nah, let's just choose one.
Okay. Well, you make fermented hot sauce, so maybe that makes sense.
So Well, what I would do is I would take the peppers and I would get some other ingredients, some like really basic ingredients. It's usually garlic, it's usually carrots. I have salt, and then that's kind of where I'm starting.
Okay, and why garlic and carrots?
That's always how I've done it. It's how that first recipe that I learned in 2016 did it. I love the way the garlic ferments. I think fermented garlic is just wicked, like flavorful. Carrots give you an amazing color and a really nice texture, and also like a beautiful like earthy sweetness that I think just work perfectly. I try to avoid, like, the carrots have a lot of sweetness in them, but I try to avoid when I'm fermenting. I try to avoid like too much like sugar. Like I wouldn't put like fruit in right now just in case it like blows up or like makes booze or something weird.
Right,
I don't know.
like alcohol vibe. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so I'll cut the carrots down, chop up the garlic, chop up the peppers, and then I'll kind of weigh it all together and get like a total weight, and then do 3% of that weight in salt.
So what's the ratio of like pepper to garlic to?
It's really whatever you want. If you want it to be really spicy, you go heavy peppers. If you don't, like if you want just a little bottle of hot sauce, get like 5 habaneros and like 10 carrots and a head of garlic.
Oh wow, okay,
it's no problem. But honestly, it's cooking, so the whole point is like kind of playing around and figuring it out.
Right. Yeah. Okay, but it seems like what you do is pepper, carrot, garlic, and then
Salt.
you chop all that all together, and then we weigh that, and then you take you do 3% of that weight in salt. Is that right?
Yes, exactly. And then mix it up, and then the next stage.
Sorry, can I stop you real quick? If someone doesn't have a scale at home, could they eyeball it? How would you go about doing it?
I mean, if I was gonna eyeball it, I would probably
like mouthball it.
Just not make fermented hot sauce. I would probably just like blend it up without the salt or whatever.
Really?
I mean, I don't know the ratio for like just eyeballing. Maybe like a quart of like food product and a tablespoon of salt or something.
Right.
I have no idea.
Well, here's
you say really like you're so shocked. What's your eyeball technique?
Well, I mouthball it. So when I don't know that I've ever honestly weighed a fermentation project. I'm getting there. I would salt it, and then I would keep salting it and tasting it until it tasted salty to me, like I could taste the salt, and then I would just add a little bit more salt.
What the fuck?
Literally how I fermented.
That's crazy, dude. I mean, maybe you could do that with this, but I don't know if it wouldn't be very pleasant. It'd be very spicy.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Okay. So 3%, you have 100 grams of pepper, carrot, garlic. You put 3 grams of salt.
Totally.
Right. Okay, cool. So now you toss it all up together?
Yeah, toss it all together, mix it up, and then you got to get it into your like fermentation vessel, whether it's like a vacuum sealed bag like Noma does, or like a crock, or like a super old plastic jar like you do.
Yeah. Well, I don't use a super old one anymore. For people at home, I've always used a huge gallon of empty Creole mustard thing and to ferment, and Ben got me a new one. But okay, so you ferment in bags, is that right?
For this bulk, like big hot sauce production, yeah, definitely. Yeah. But for at home stuff, I wouldn't do bags. I would just put them in a mason jar and like a deli container, or a Cambro or something like that.
Can you walk through a little bit of like setting up the environment for fermentation success?
Totally. Yeah, I think that it's important that you say we're going to put it in a ball jar or something like that. You want to wash your ball jar. You don't want to use like sanitizer or anything like that, really, but like clean it, hot water, and like a little bit of soap and stuff.
You want to do that because you don't want other unwanted bacteria to infect the thing that you're about to do.
You're creating when you're fermenting, you're creating an environment for bacteria to live, and you want to control which bacteria thrive. And so you want to make sure that you're cleaning it in a way that, the only bacteria that's going to thrive is the one that you want. You're not getting any like boo-boo stuff growing in there.
Cool. Okay. So you've washed it, hot water, maybe a little bit of soap, and then what's next?
And then your pepper mash, or like your vegetable mixture, goes in.
Is it blended at this point, or is it just like big chunks of carrots and stuff?
It could be, or it could not be. For me, it's usually big chunks of carrots, but in a situation where you're putting it in like a ball jar, it might be easier to smash it up into like a mash or something like that. Right,
because the thing that I'm thinking about here is like, the way that I learned fermentation is like basically you're creating a salty environment for the lactic acid bacteria on the produce that you're using to thrive and grow, consume sugars, turn it into acid.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to do that, everything needs to be submerged under the salt water, and anything above it that is exposed to oxygen is at risk of molding. So when I think about having a big bowl of like carrots and garlic and chilies and adding like, a big handful of salt or whatever, does it create enough liquid that or do you have to like massage it? Do you put it in a brine?
Right, that's a good point. I think that a brine would help you a lot. And I think if you wanted to do a brine, you could do that as well. You could just do, have your peppers, your carrots, and your garlic, and then put water, cover that with water and weigh that, and then do 3% of that whole weight. And then you could have a brine to kind of make sure that you're...
Or wouldn't you do 3% of the water? Wouldn't you make the water like a 3% solution for it to live in?
Yeah.
Or would it be
3 thing? This is coming from the guy who's mouthballing, trying to get super scientific all of a sudden, break down my fucking ratios.
Well, I'm just curious. If you're at home and you got your fucking...
Just put salt in it until it tastes salty, and then put more salt in it.
Literally. I'm just trying to think do you add salt to the water by weight or the water and the veggie by weight?
I don't think it makes a fucking difference, to be honest. I think... It probably doesn't. It probably really doesn't. I think that if you're making the water salty, yeah, I think you could probably do either way. I think my way is probably better, but...
All right. So you'd get the full amount of water and all the produce, and you'd weigh it and do 3% salt for that.
Yeah, and then you wouldn't have to worry about mold growing or anything like that. But if you're making like a pepper mash and you're fermenting it, I feel like if it's salty enough, it's not going to mold, which is something that I don't think that you believe.
That's true. How did you tell?
But there's ways that you can like safeguard it and stuff like that. Things that I've done before is I've laid like a flat kind of like surface of plastic wrap over the top of the mash so that like very little oxygen is hitting it, and then I'll cover that in fucking salt. And that just kind of stops anything from growing there, and it also, the plastic wrap stops the salt from getting into the pepper mash and stuff like that.
People also do like the plastic bag with water in it vibe too, right?
I've never done that.
Me either. I feel like I'd spill all the water inside of it. But I think people also make that brine, and so if any spills, it's just more brine in there.
Oh, they make that brine.
I don't know.
That's a good idea, though. If they're not doing that, they should.
They ought to. So the goal, just to zoom out a little bit, is to submerge the vegetables in a 3% salt solution and to keep those vegetables submerged over the course of how long?
Whenever you want. You can wait until the bubbles stop, like the act of the peppers and the garlic and the carrots and stuff will release a bunch of their gas and like will bubble, and eventually that kind of fermentation will stop. And you can wait till then. You can go longer. I've had fermented peppers that are like 2 years old and stuff like that, but most of the times it's like a 3-month kind of like sweet spot for me.
Do you also maybe burping is a thing to do if you're using ball jars at home?
Totally, yeah. So like the gas that I was saying that is going to be created through the fermentation process, you're going to want to release that gas, kind of like crack open your jar and let the like stinky gas come out. Don't be worried if it smells bad.
Sounds like me after Chili's.
Right.
Yeah, because otherwise, gas is being produced and wants to come out, and if it hits a lid and can never come out, am I right in saying that it will oftentimes carbonize the produce, or carbonate the produce that's in there? Yeah,
and it could also make your ball jar explode.
Right, which wouldn't be that cool.
Would suck.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So you've got your peppers, garlic, carrots fermented from anywhere from a couple days to a few weeks to a few months, depending on your schedule and your desires. I imagine the flavor changes over the course of those weeks.
Totally, yeah.
In different ways.
That the fermentation lends like a funky sourness to it that is just like you're not going to taste elsewhere. I think that the fermentation really just like adds like, it's like, isn't there, what's the like sixth taste? Whatever, didn't you
The one
send me something?
that I sent you? Yeah.
It's
Far,
like the,
far if I can remember it. I don't know. And I won't even try.
it's like that shit. It's like, it's not umami. It's not like saltiness. It's not whatever. It's like a funkiness that is a well-rounded kind of thing that it creates, I think.
So before we get into the next step of the process, like why ferment? Is it for flavor? Is it for like storage? Is it like what?
Yeah, well, I think both. You know, back in the day, it's like you fermented shit because you grew it and you couldn't eat enough cabbage and you needed it for like a year from now or whatever. And so I think fermentation for like storage and canning and stuff like that makes sense. I don't do it for like shelf life. I do it for flavor because I think it adds a lot of flavor. I think a lot of people do it for health benefits too. It's like the gut biome and all that shit. But I don't do it for that either. I just like the way it tastes.
Today's is brought to you by you. Thank you all so much for listening. It's so cool and so surreal to know people are out there tuning in and enjoying these things. So thank you. And thank you to everyone who shared it on social media, given us a follow or a rating. Very, very cool. Thank you. Now back to my conversation with Ben.
So everything's done fermenting. What's next?
Everything's done fermenting. Now you blend it. I use like a high-powered blender and I just fucking zap the shit out of it until it's like smooth. Me personally, I like my hot sauce to be smooth and not chunky. So I strain it after I blend it
Through like a fine mesh sieve?
Yeah, you can use a fine mesh sieve. You can use cheesecloth and or like a kitchen towel and like squeeze it and get all the juice out of it.
If you had done it in brine, would you reserve some of the brine as you blend it and just blend the chunks and slowly add the brine in, or would you just go full hog?
Yeah, I think you could probably do that. I would imagine that it wouldn't turn in the blender perfectly without all that brine, but yeah, you could keep it on the side and slowly put it in until it turns for sure, just in case you're like worried about it being too salty.
Right. And then if you were doing it with fresh ingredients, would you just sub brine for just like go into vinegar until it turns?
Totally. Yeah. You could just go in with vinegar. You could go in, you'll probably use a little bit of vinegar, a little bit of water. You want to make sure that you're seasoning it with salt.
Okay, cool. So you're blending it till smooth.
Yes.
And then you're straining it. And so you've got a strained, hot, complex, funky liquid.
And a mash.
Right. And I guess maybe now is an appropriate time for you to say what you do with the mash.
I actually pop the mash in a dehydrator and then I get it completely dehydrated and then I pulverize it again in the blender and like create kind of like a dust. And then I reintroduce that into the hot sauce as a thickener instead of using more of the like kind of artificial thickeners. It gives a totally different texture to the finished hot sauce because if you're not straining it, you're going to get these big kind of chunks of vegetables and peppers and garlic and stuff like that. Whereas once it's dehydrated and blended, you've created the ability for the blender to break it down even finer. So it's like truly like a dust. And when it gets into the liquid, it expands a little bit, but it's like much more kind of homogeneous and less like chunky vibes and more like smooth.
I think the part of this process that we're at where you have a hot liquid
is
the part where
spicy liquid.
Spicy. Yeah, spicy cold liquid, really, room temp. But this is the part of the process where I start to get a little fuzzy, and I think like I haven't quite wrapped my head around like how you turn spicy, sour, funky liquid into spun off into all these different possible hot sauces that you see, and like what the balance of like heat and acidity and sweetness and like water to like make it less hot. Like I don't really understand. Like you've helped me make hot sauce over the phone before, and I'm like, it's too spicy, and you're like, more carrots, or I'm like, or you're like, blend in oil. I'm like, I kind of just want to like talk through like the problem solving or like creativity that you have in those moments to like try to balance flavor and create like unique hot sauces from your base.
Yeah. If you're not wanting to add any kind of thickener or anything, you can just kind of keep some of that mash in there. And you're just going to have to shake your hot sauce whenever you're using it, and you're at a point where you have to taste it and you have to see how hot it is and how sweet it is and how, salty it is. And that is honestly going to be painful. And it's just a thing you're going to have to do. And, you taste it. And if it's just like, oh my God, I can't even palate this. Like, it's so spicy. That's the point where you're going to have to start adding more acidity and more water. And that's another reason that I think the thickener is like so crucial, is because as soon as you start adding more liquid, it's just going to be so loosey-goosey. Mm-hmm. And sweetener, I think that I don't think Tabasco and stuff have any kind of sugar in them, but I think that some kind of sweetness is crucial in a hot sauce. It doesn't have to be like sweet, but something to balance out that salt, spice, and acidity.
At what point would you switch to water from vinegar? Does it reach a point where you're like, this is actually hurting my throat now, but it's still too spicy? And so
I think if it's way too sour, it's like a to taste thing. It's like you're tasting it and it's like, this doesn't taste like anything other than vinegar anymore. It's like I think you can really, it's a flavor thing.
Okay, so you're adding vinegar to give it maybe a zip.
Yeah, exactly. And you're adding vinegar to give it a zip.
And so you're adding water. If it's still too spicy, you're adding water and vinegar at kind of a ratio to maintain the zip you want. Mm-hmm. And then you're adding some sort of sweetener to kind of balance the heat and the salt and the vinegar. Basically take a little bit of the edge off and make it a little bit more balanced. It's hard to explain, but totally. It is
And I mean, it's very likely that, the finished product, before you even start putting balancing with water and vinegar, is what you want. Right. It could be, you blend it up and you're like, wow, this is perfect. It's spicy and I like it to be really spicy, The balancing
tools you have are you're balancing heat with dilutions, with vinegar and water. Yeah. You're balancing acidity with dilution with water, as well as with sugar, which kind of rounds out the acidity a little bit.
Right. Yeah. Round out seems right.
And salt you're using to kind of just make sure everything tastes in 3D kind of.
Yeah, I think that's a great way of describing what salt does. Just kind of pushes the flavor forward in your mouth, and it's this isn't salty, but this tastes like what it's supposed to taste like.
Right. Yeah, my friend used to describe it as volume knob.
Yeah, totally.
Turn the carrots up.
I can't hear it yet.
So for your original that you say you use the most, is that just pepper, carrot, garlic, fermented, vinegar, water, salt, sweetener, and thickener?
Yeah, and then I put I put sumac in that one.
Sumac, nice, cool.
Yeah, because I like it.
Right now you just have, it's a simple kind of sauce, basic sauce.
How do we have some fun?
Yeah, how do we have some fun? I remember I put in a bunch of orange juice and orange zest into one. Of you've had me put in charred tomato. How are these? How do you think about those mix-ins, if you will, in the context of both balancing, we were just talking about, as well as creating a unique hot sauce with its own personality, kind of?
Totally. I think that's the most fun thing. I love to kind of work with color. For a yellow sauce. I'll have only yellow peppers and only yellow carrots, and I'll think what else is fucking yellow, or pineapple, ginger, turmeric. Just the color is a really fun way to kind of go, and then you get this crazy vibrant yellow hot sauce, which is always super fun. Or you can go further and pull away from color directional and be okay, I'm gonna maybe be more cuisine oriented. And one of my favorite sauces that I made is an Italian hot sauce, and I made that because it's just, there aren't many of them. When you go to an Italian restaurant, you're getting chili oil or chili flakes, but I want something that fits the flavor profile of my lasagna, and
right, something to put on your meatballs, if you will.
Something to put on my meatballs. And so that's a great way to go too. You take a cuisine that you love, and for me that was Italian, and it's okay, so this hot sauce is going to have a bunch of caramelized onion and tomato paste and red wine vinegar and confit garlic and oregano and stuff like that, where it just, you're following this kind of like general genre of food. Also, I think seasonality is like so crucial because, you know, peppers grow in the summer. And like when we made that Poot Tutor hot sauce for you, the cherry tomatoes just called to us. We saw them. They're beautiful, like bright orange sun gold tomatoes. And we're like, all right, let's do that. And you, I think, personally wanted like flecks in your sauce. And so I think thinking about your finished product, what you're looking for, and you were like, I want like it to be like have like charred flecks in it. It's like, okay, let's burn these tomatoes and mix them in. The skin of the tomatoes would make a perfect kind of flecky sauce for you.
Yeah. So with like, let's talk about the Italian sauce. You cooked all those things.
Yeah. So I took my onions and I caramelized them and just cooked them for a really long time. And then I roasted heads of garlic in the oven until they're ooey gooey. And then I put tomato paste into the caramelized onions and cooked that for a decent amount of time to kind of get rid of that like kind of twangy like tomato fucking paste flavor. Deglazed with red wine, added my spices and my garlic, and then it was like this fucked up like pasta sauce. Like it was gross, honestly. It tasted like shit. It's like the worst pasta sauce you've ever had, basically. And then I added that to my my fermented peppers, and I blended that all together.
Okay, so you were like, I'm going to make Italian hot sauce. You made your ragu, and then you took that ragu and you
mixed it with the peppers.
Mix it with the peppers and all of the liquid from the bag.
Yeah.
And then you blended all that together, strained it. Then from there, you were adding vinegar and water.
Right.
And sweetener to balance it.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I would add just like, I think it didn't take much because the ragu was pretty sour, but add a little bit of red wine vinegar, a little bit of agave, and probably a little bit of salt just to like turn it up a little bit.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So what was the proportion, would you say, of your like really bad tomato sauce to your like your hot sauce base?
It was pretty even. The peppers that I used for that sauce were really spicy this year, so it was like almost 50-50 like ragu and peppers.
Ragu. For some reason, adding like fresh or cooked ingredients like that makes my brain go like, this won't last in the fridge, it'll spoil.
Right. I try to avoid using like oil and stuff like that just for those reasons. But at the end of the day, my hot sauce gets shipped around the country at room temperature, so it has to be pasteurized. So my hot sauce isn't living anymore. And like I said, I ferment for flavor, not for like shelf life or like whatever. So I don't really have my heart doesn't break when I kill those like lactobacteria and stuff like that by pasteurizing.
So you pasteurize at the very end of...
Yeah. Exactly. So after the tomatoes and everything have been added in and strained, and it gets pasteurized, heat pasteurized. And
then can you talk a little bit about like pasteurization? Like how do you do that? Do you do that because you're shipping them? Would you do that with your own sauce at home that was for personal use?
Yeah, I think the personal use sauce at home, I usually don't pasteurize because it just kind of hangs out in my fridge. But anytime anything's going to be sitting at room temperature, it should be heat pasteurized, or else it'll kind of do what we were talking about and create those bubbles and potentially explode and stuff like that.
And also might continue, if you haven't put enough vinegar in it, to ferment in directions that are undesirable, maybe.
Exactly.
Ben doesn't mention it here, but he told me that he pasteurizes his sauce by cooking it for 15 minutes at 180 degrees Fahrenheit, just so you know.
And so something we didn't talk about as far as like your finished product, we didn't talk about thickening.
Right. That's true. Yeah.
That's probably because you're scared of it, but I would like to talk about it.
All right, fine. Talk about it. I
think that, so check it out. When you're thickening a product with xanthan gum, a few things. I like to make sure that the product is a little bit warm, if not hot, because that really helps the xanthan gum kind of incorporate into the sauce.
So this would be post-pasteurization?
Yeah, it should be post-pasteurization. And it's important to use a high-powered blender. If you're just like putting a quarter teaspoon in and mixing it with a spoon, it's not going to work. It's going to clump up and it won't work at all. It's really important that you have like a high-powered blender with a vortex kind of going. When you're spinning it full blown and you get that vortex in the middle where you can see the blade down the bottom, and you're just going to, over the top of the blender while it's running, it's called feathering. You're just going to feather in your thickener, just like kind of tap tap the side of the spoon really lightly to just get a little bit in at a time. Because again, put it all in at once, you have the chance that it will just seize up and clump in one spot, but you really want it to distribute.
You might have given a ratio and I missed it, but like, let's say you're making a quart of hot sauce at home.
Yeah.
What's a general range of the amount of thickener you put in it?
So little, dude. Like so little.
Like an eighth of a teaspoon?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
maybe like,
cool.
yeah. And it also, it's a lot of like kind of watching it, you know, you can watch it thicken as you like kind of tap in the stuff, but it
thickens pretty quick.
Yeah, it thickens it, especially if the sauce that you're blending is warm, it'll thicken instantly.
Okay, cool. And another way to do that would, like you said earlier, would be get that vortex going and emulsify some oil into it if you're going to use it like kind of as a fresh sauce.
Yeah.
Okay, so why don't you just as like a sum up, unless there's another part of this that you want to talk about, like as a sum up, maybe can you just like explain a concise description of making hot sauce from start to finish now that we've gone through all the now that we've gone through the nitty-gritty of it all, like in your words, what is the job of making hot sauce?
Okay. You're buying peppers and you're buying like mix-in ingredients that kind of fit your flavor profile that you like, and you're creating like your ideal sauce. You know, think about what kind of things that you like, and you look at the grocery store and try to find things that look beautiful and seasonal and delicious, and that's what you're gonna make when you go home. And you're gonna take your peppers and you're gonna chop them up, and you're gonna peel and chop and process the other vegetables that you're using, and you're going to mix all of those ingredients with the proper amount of salt, like between 2 and 5%. I like the 3% mark. And you're going to let that kind of ferment in a situation where you're not letting any oxygen touch the fermenting product, whether it's like with a lid on top of it, like secured, keeping everything below liquid, or using like a brine. You're going to let that ferment until you can't wait any longer, and you're going to blend it up. And you're either going to keep it chunky and love the way it is, or you're going to strain it out and buy some like thickener or some lovely olive oil and kind of slowly emulsify that into it. And you're going to put it in a little squeeze bottle and use a nice piece of masking tape and label it "To Taste Podcast" made by Cody Reiss, and love your life and put it on your eggs.
Wonderful. Okay. That was awesome. I love that. Do you have any like final like things for people to be aware of that you think might be like stopping them from trying it, or like challenges people might face in the process, or last words of wisdom
I think
to share?
that, yeah, for sure. I think a big thing is don't be scared to try it. It's not scary at all. It's super fun. And like you could literally go buy like 2 carrots and 1 pepper and make hot sauce for a meal. And it's like, just put it in the blender with some salt and some sugar and it'll taste delicious. It's not like you don't have to, fermenting, like I don't want to buy a mason jar, whatever. Like just, it's so simple. Like you could go to the store and buy like an apple and an orange and like 2 habaneros and put it in a blender, and you can make like something that is fun at least and spicy, and put it on your pork chop or something.
In the end, it's a spicy sauce.
Yeah, in the end, it's just a spicy sauce. And also, I think a fair warning, like everybody's always making fun of like, oh, don't touch your eyes or whatever. But like, seriously, don't touch your eyes. Like,
right.
It hurts. And like washing dishes and stuff like that, be careful. And like cutting boards and stuff like that. If you're cutting up a habanero and then, you have to cut up your baby's fucking celery sticks, it's like a fucked up situation.
That's funny. Great. Any last words, or think we kind of got all of it?
I don't think so. I mean, do you have anything else you wanted to say to me?
Yeah, I mean, happy birthday. Sorry, I can't believe
it's not my birthday. Do you want to tell anybody that's listening, all these people who are listening to this podcast at home, how you know me, or if that you know me, or like is it just like this random ass dude?
Yeah. Ben has a hot sauce company that you can no longer buy hot sauce from called Fantasma. And thank you so much for being here, Ben. I really learned a lot, and I'm excited to make some hot sauce this season.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, well, obviously Ben didn't know that I was going to intro him up top. No worries. You have been listening to Taste, which is made by me, Cody Reiss. You can find me on Instagram at Cody Reiss, and the podcast at To Taste Podcast. Huge special thanks to our guest Ben Bechelli. You can find him on Instagram at sustainably_braised. And Ben also did our art, and our music is by Justin Kohlberg of Moonrun. If you do like this podcast, check out the companion food and travel Substack, also called To Taste. And anyways, it's very late here. I'm so sleepy, and your homework is to go to the market on Sunday, grab some peppers, and make yourself some sauce. Okay, talk soon. Bye.